If you haven't played Hunt Showdown, I'm not surprised, as it's had a rough few years since its release, flying under the radar with player counts that make even Anthem shit itself. That's not good. Over the last few months, Hunt Showdown has surged in popularity, and rightfully so, because this game is truly the Dark Souls of Battle Royales. Oh come on, it's got bosses in it, and according to my journalist-approved dictionary, that means it's a Souls-like. Hunt Showdown is a PvE/PvP first-person shooter that has you gathering clues to find your target bounty, which just so happens to be your average roided-up Glaswegian, also known as a boss. Your objective is to kill that boss and boost with the bounty, all whilst 11 other players are trying that very same objective. But before you grab your Gucci suspenders and kill some depressed cowboys, I just want to mention, Hunt Showdown was actually developed and published by Crytek, a pretty well known name due to their absolute blockbusters, The Climb, and more commonly known for their work on Fibble, Flick and Roll. These are the guys that made Crysis? So can Crytek's latest game compete with their previous giants? Probably not. Fibble did get a 73 on Metacritic. Hunt Showdown is class. It is genuinely one of the most unique multiplayer shooters you can play right now. A game that combines the dynamic gameplay loop of Battle Royales and the unmatched high stakes gameplay of Tarkov to create one of the most intense shooters on the market. Asking the important question, what if a Battle Royale had crows?
For fuck's sake!
Before anything, I've got to talk about the setup to each game, as it's these elements that make deaths and victories so much more impactful. Firstly, to even enter a match, you've got to recruit a hunter, with varying gear and perks according to their tier. For example, this guy's tier 3 because he's got a class rifle, but more importantly, he has the AirPods. You can purchase hunters with money earned in matches, but there's always a free character with worse gear available. You can also purchase weapons and items to bring with you, ranging from dynamite to telescopes. Who the fuck is using this? There's a surprising amount of options to tailor your loadouts to your playstyle, deciding whether you want to focus on stealth, long-range engagements, short-range, or even roleplay as a London resident.
A bit rude to put that knife in my chest, innit, bro?
The game always encourages you to try new playstyles through the permadeath system, as you'll constantly be playing new hunters with different traits. So I would advise not dying. The permadeath system absolutely amplifies how intense matches can be, as losing characters you've had over multiple runs can be incredibly crushing, but it's these moments that make the victories that much sweeter.
God.
Yes, get in, son! So once you've got your hunter, you can enter the game. Wait a minute. What the fuck's this? So Hunt Showdown actually has a lowered crosshair, which is fine, as you'll get used to it after a few games, but it doesn't stop me from being so confused by the decision. Typically you get lowered crosshairs in games with a lot more verticality, like Halo, because people jump in Halo like they're descendants of the red kangaroo. Also, this is one of the few games that actually require more information of what you're stepping over, because of how vital sound and traps are. Don't jump in there!
Oh no.
AK, watch where you're walking! Immersion could be a factor, but to be honest, my immersion went out the window when I saw this same half-dead horse for the 20th time. For fuck's sake, Joey, no again! So once you've dropped your negative review, grown as a person, and accepted that the crosshair is going absolutely nowhere, you can start gathering your clues, which can be typically found at outposts seen through Darkside. A quick tip, find someone that isn't lazy, proceed to let them find the clues, and annoy them during the process. Will this help you secure a bounty? No, absolutely not, but it will be 10 times more entertaining.
Go away.
Wait, that's the way
Finding clues is simple and direct, avoiding this task becoming tedious over multiple games, while setting up Hunt Showdown's other fantastic elements, getting players to constantly move without forcing a circle up everyone's arse. But getting your clues isn't all fun and games, because you're going to encounter Hunt Showdown's surprisingly good AI, which plays a pivotal role in PvP, how you approach situations, and destroying your mental health.
Are you serious? This is torture.
You've got a wide range of enemies with specific traits and weaknesses that add puzzle-like elements to approaching settlements, as you're always assessing the risks of each route to ensure you make as little noise as possible, whilst also being quick. For example, you might encounter this bee lassie, which can only be killed by hitting her in the head, but if you go near her, she'll send her goons after you, which will poison and shred your health. So if you don't have a suppressed weapon, your options are finding another, possibly longer route, or take the risk and shoot her with an unsilenced weapon, which with the way sound works in this game, most people on the map will hear. But the AI will constantly have you weighing up decisions like this, which is absolutely class at providing more engaging gameplay out of PvP encounters. Also working hand in hand to improve PvP, creating interesting encounters other shooters cannot replicate. Not to mention how the AI helps mold the pacing of firefights, as players need to avoid them where possible, stopping players running wherever, whenever. And the designs of the AI look phenomenal. They all have incredibly distinct, unsettling visuals, acing that gothic horror appearance.
Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Cork. Hey, take it easy, man.
Now, Hunt Showdown isn't one of your traditional shooters. For one, as you probably noticed, it's set in the 19th century, so your weaponry is going to be restricted to mostly semi-automatic and bolt action weapons, well, with the occasional exception.
What the fuck was that?
Because of this, the gunplay is a lot fresher than most multiplayer shooters, as you're not hip firing an M240 after downing your Grand's Mountain Dew. Instead, you're wielding the iconic Mosin Nagant, and smallpox I guess, which firefights have an increased focus on positioning, accuracy, and sound, giving the combat a massively unique feeling. Although reaction time and movement can still be a major factor, it isn't the focus. The gunplay isn't as punchy as other games, but it's still incredibly satisfying, and does a great job at showing the power of different weapons through the recoil. Headshots, no matter the weapon, deliver one-hit kills, so even when you're using weaker weapons, you still have a chance to win encounters, allowing skill to overcome sheer weaponry, balancing out the highly geared and non-geared players so much better than a game like Tarkov. Oh, sorry, you're right, I didn't bring my fucking nuclear bomb. Also, because of how players are always moving to common points of interest, it pretty much ensures that most combat encounters are going to take place in the built-up locations, which are all incredibly unique, posing different scenarios and keeping encounters different from the last. Where the gunplay and gameplay absolutely excels though is through the sound design. I don't normally engage fully with information games deliver through sound because most of the time these elements can be incredibly inconsistent or just not worth the bother. Hunt is different. There is so much information the game delivers through sound, but most importantly the audio is consistent and reliable, affecting even the pacing of gunfights as you try to make as little noise as possible using any sound cues to your advantage. Stealth is key here. Also, the immersion that comes from the audio quality and attention to detail is fantastic, just making those intense situations even more insane. And all that's without even talking about the bosses, which are all pretty fun to fight, feeling fairly unique from each other with an unmatched intensity, as you fight the boss not knowing if players are nearby, so you'll be rushing to kill it as quick as possible and set up your defences, as you'll need to wait for the boss to be banished till you can collect the bounty. When banishing, the boss's location is shown on the map, so players that couldn't find the boss quick enough now have a chance to kill the players and take the bounty for themselves. Now that's fantastic. Also, apparently you're supposed to melee them. Alright, I'll just go up to this fucking behemoth and 5-knuckle shuffle his thigh. Progression is also fairly solid. You've got your more traditional progression, which is your overall level, which when leveled up, will allow access to new weapons and gear, which is fine. But it's the addicting system of leveling up characters, earning money, and getting better as a player that's going to keep you playing on top of the incredibly fun gameplay loop. You can level up your characters, unlocking new traits to suit your playstyle, which will make your character stronger, but it will make losing them that much more brutal. It's this constant building up characters from nothing to absolute class setups that can be so addicting, also making the rewards for victories so much more rewarding. Also, just in general, the art style is fantastic. I love the setting and the commitment to the darker, gothic vibes, delivering an incredibly unsettling, unique atmosphere. I definitely have a soft spot for games that take a more muted colour palette rather than just slapping that saturation scale into a chroma, and it just works so well here, especially when the game does show some of its prettier visuals, which feel so much more impactful because of how it contrasts from this dark, depressing world that surrounds you. Also, just look at how good this pistol looks. If that's not America's Next Top Model, the show's rigged. Now, I've heard a lot of people saying this game is incredibly difficult to get into, and my question to that is, have you played Tarkov? There's more ammo types in that game than there is people playing it. It's a difficult game, don't get me wrong, but the game does have skill brackets that don't feel too strict, but ensure you're not getting stomped on by experienced players game after game, making that learning period a lot less punishing. It is worth pointing out that it was more likely a smoother introduction for me due to the high recent influx of new players, but although it can be difficult, I still found it insanely more approachable than Tarkov. And on an unrelated note, just like most of these games, it's definitely best played with a mate, until they hate you anyways.
Don't shoot me. Don't stab me. I'm going this way.
Hunt Showdown is a really great game that's been incredibly overlooked. A game that delivers some of the most unique multiplayer shooter gameplay on the market, pushing audio design to its absolute limits. Hopefully this boost in popularity doesn't fade, and Crytek gets the credit it deserves for creating this fantastic shooter. Would have preferred Fibble 2 though.